The woman took her first breath underwater and didn't drown. That's when she knew this wasn't Earth. The therapist asked her to describe what she was seeing, and she said the words that would change everything, about how we understand where souls can live. I have gills, I'm not human, and this isn't a past life. This is somewhere else entirely. Dr. Marcus had been doing regression work for 20 years and he'd never heard anything like this. People remembered being Egyptian priests and World War II soldiers and medieval farmers. They remembered dying in fires and childbirth and car crashes. But they remembered being human, always on Earth. This woman, Jessica, was describing something different, something that shouldn't be possible. And the details she gave were too specific to be imagination, too consistent to be fantasy. She was remembering a life in a place that wasn't supposed to exist. Jessica had come to him because of the dreams. Every night for 6 months she'd been drowning. She'd wake up gasping, her throat burning, her lungs screaming for air. But in the dreams, right before she woke up, there was always a moment, a split second where the water didn't hurt, where she could breathe it, where it felt natural, like coming home. Her doctor said it was anxiety. Her therapist said it was trauma, but Jessica knew it was a memory. She just didn't know from when. Dr. Marcus guided her into the deepest trance state he'd ever induced. Her breathing slowed. Her body went completely still. And when he asked her to go back to the source of the dreams, she went somewhere he never expected. The room temperature dropped. Jessica's hands started moving in slow, fluid motions like she was swimming. Dr. Marcus asked where she was. She said, I'm descending. The light is fading. It's getting darker, but I'm not afraid. I know this place. This is home. What do you see around you? Water. Everywhere. But it's not like earth water. It's thicker, almost like liquid light. It has weight to it, and the color keeps changing. Blues and greens and purples I've never seen before. There are structures in the distance, buildings maybe, but they're organic, like they grew instead of being built. And there are others here. I can sense them. Others like you. Yes, we're the same. We live here. We've always lived here. This is our world. Dr. Marcus felt his pulse quicken. Describe your body. What do you look like? Jessica was quiet for a long moment. Her hands continued the swimming motions. I'm taller than I am now. Thinner. My skin is different. It has a texture, like scales, but softer. And I have these slits on my neck, 3 on each side. When I breathe, the water flows through them, in and out. It's natural. It's how we breathe here. Do you have a name in this place? She paused. The name came out in sounds that didn't match human language, but then she translated. The closest I can say in English is Kale. That's what they call me. That's who I am here. Dr. Marcus wrote frantically. Who is they? My pod, my family. We travel together. We live together. We're connected in ways that don't exist on Earth. I can feel what they feel. I can know what they know. We're separate, but we're also one thing. One consciousness spread across many bodies. And then Jessica said something that made Dr. Marcus stop writing. She said, I remember why I'm afraid of the ocean now. It's not because I drowned. It's because I miss it. My soul remembers being able to breathe underwater. It remembers a world where water was home. And every time I see the ocean in this human life, part of me wants to go back, wants to walk into the waves and breathe again. But I can't, because this body can't do what that one could. Dr. Marcus asked her to move forward in that life. Tell me what you do there. What is your purpose? Kale's purpose was different from anything Jessica had experienced as a human. There was no work in the way humans understood it. No money, no jobs. The beings in this world existed in a state of collective purpose. Each individual contributed to the whole based on their gifts and the needs of the pod. Kale was what they called a current reader. She could sense changes in the water, could feel disturbances from miles away, could predict shifts in temperature and pressure that affected where the pod traveled and how they survived. It sounds simple when I describe it that way, Jessica said, but it's everything. The currents are how we navigate, how we find food, how we avoid danger. I spend hours every day just floating in the water, feeling the way it moves, understanding what it's telling me. And when I know something important, the whole pod knows it instantly. The information flows from me to them without words, without effort. It just happens. What does the pod do with this information? We move. We're always moving. Staying still in one place too long is dangerous. The currents tell me when it's time to go, where to go. We follow patterns that have existed for thousands of years, maybe longer. I don't know how old this world is. Time doesn't work the same way there. Describe a typical day. There are no days. Not like on Earth. The light changes, but there's no sun. The glow comes from the water itself, from organisms that live in it. Billions of tiny lights that pulse and shift. When the water is brightest, we're more active. We hunt. We play. We communicate with other pods. When it dims, we rest. We gather close and let ourselves drift in the currents. We dream together. Shared dreams where all our consciousnesses blend, and we remember things from before we were born. Before you were born, yes. We remember our origin, where we came from, how we came to be. It's not hidden from us like it is for humans. We know we were created. We know we're part of an experiment, a test to see if consciousness can exist in this form, in this environment. And we know we're not alone, that there are other worlds, other forms, other experiments happening in other places. Dr. Marcus felt like he was documenting something impossible. Do you age? Do you die? We age slowly. So slowly that it's hard to notice. Some members of my pod have been alive for what would be hundreds of Earth years. But yes, we die. When our bodies can no longer sustain us, we release. We let ourselves drift down to the deep places where the pressure is too great for consciousness to remain in physical form. And then we dissolve back into the water, back into the source. And eventually, we're born again, into new bodies, with new pods. But we remember, we always remember the lives before. What do you eat? Jessica's face changed. A flicker of something dark passed across it. That's the part I didn't like. We're hunters, predators. There are smaller beings in the water. They don't have consciousness like we do. They're more like earth animals. We hunt them. We consume them. It's necessary for survival. But I never liked it. I was always the one who hesitated, who felt too much. The others in my pod said I was too soft. That I thought like a land dweller. I didn't understand what that meant then. But I do now. Why? Because they knew. Somehow they knew I would eventually leave, that I would choose to incarnate on Earth, that I would become human. And they were right. Dr. Marcus leaned forward. You chose to leave that world. Yes. Why? Jessica's breathing became unsteady, because I wanted to understand separation. In the ocean world, we were always connected, always together, always knowing what the others felt and thought. There was no privacy, no individuality in the way humans experience it, and I was curious about what it would be like to be alone, to be cut off, to have my own thoughts that no one else could hear. So I asked to leave. I asked to go to a world where consciousness exists in isolation. Who did you ask? The guides, the ones who watch over all the experiments. They exist outside of form. They move between worlds. They offered me a choice. I could stay in the ocean world and continue that cycle of birth and death and rebirth. Or I could go to Earth and experience human life. But they warned me. They said once I went, I wouldn't fully remember, that the human brain couldn't hold memories of non-human existence, that I would feel the loss but not understand what I lost. And they were right. So you agreed anyway. I did because I thought I knew what I was choosing. I thought it would be an adventure, a chance to learn something new. But I didn't understand what it would actually feel like. What does it feel like? Lonely. So lonely. Humans don't understand because they've never known anything different, but I have. I remember what it's like to never be alone, to always have the pod there, to feel them around me even when I couldn't see them. And now I'm in this body and I'm completely separate, completely cut off. And it's unbearable sometimes. Is that why you have the drowning dreams? Jessica started crying. Not the body in the chair, but Kale, the being in the ocean world. Dr. Marcus could see tears running down Jessica's face in the present while she described Kale crying in the past. The two experiences blending together. Yes, I dream about drowning because that's what this human life feels like too. The part of me that remembers, like I'm suffocating, like I'm in the wrong element, like I can't breathe. Dr. Marcus asked her to move forward to the moment she left, the moment she transitioned from the ocean world to Earth. I'm with my pod, all of them. We're gathered in a circle in the deep water. The guides are there too. I can't see them, but I can feel them. They're telling me it's time, that if I'm going to go, it has to be now. The pod is saying goodbye, not with words, with feelings, with memories. They're showing me every moment we shared, every hunt, every rest period, every time I read the currents and led them to safety. They're thanking me, telling me I was a good reader, a good member, and they're sad, but they understand. They know I have to go. And then what happens? I let myself sink, down past the usual depths, down into the pressure zones where even our bodies can't survive. And as I go deeper, I start to dissolve. My physical form breaks apart, returns to the water, and my consciousness, the part of me that's eternal, separates, rises up, leaves the ocean world entirely. And there's this moment of pure terror because I realize I can't go back, that I've made an irreversible choice, that I'll never breathe underwater again, never feel the pod around me again, never read the currents or float in the shared dreams. It's gone, all of it, forever. Where do you go? Into the space between, the void, the place where souls wait before incarnating. And there are so many of them, thousands, millions, souls from countless worlds waiting to be born into new forms. And I'm just one of many, just another consciousness looking for a new experience. The guides show me options, different planets, different species, different timelines, and I choose Earth. I choose to be human. I choose this. Do you regret it? Jessica opened her eyes in the present. The trance broke. She looked at Dr. Marcus with an expression he couldn't read. Every single day, the session ended, but the story didn't. Over the next few weeks, Jessica started having more memories, not in regression, just in daily life. She'd be washing dishes and suddenly remember the feeling of water flowing through her gills. She'd be in a meeting at work and sense the presence of the pod like they were in the room with her. She'd go to the beach and stand at the edge of the water and feel a pull so strong she had to physically step back to keep from walking in. Dr. Marcus documented everything. He had her draw pictures of the ocean world. She drew the buildings that looked like coral structures, the other beings in her pod with their elongated bodies and textured skin, the tiny organisms that created light in the water. She drew the currents as she remembered them, swirling patterns that looked like sacred geometry. And when Dr. Marcus showed these drawings to a marine biologist colleague, without telling him where they came from, the biologist said they looked like deep ocean ecosystems, like something that could exist in the trenches where humans had never explored. Jessica also started researching. She found accounts from other people who claimed to remember non-human lives. Most of them were dismissed as fantasy or mental illness. But some of the details matched. People who remembered breathing underwater, people who described worlds that existed entirely in liquid environments, people who talked about collective consciousness in pods and current reading. The similarities were too specific to ignore. And then Jessica found something that changed everything. A recording from the 1970s. An interview with a woman who had undergone regression and remembered a life as an aquatic being. The woman described the same gills, the same type of structures, the same connected consciousness, and she said she had been part of a pod called the Kale, not a pod that contained someone named Kale. The pod itself was called Kale. It was a collective name. All the members were Kale. They were one being in multiple bodies. Jessica realized she hadn't just been a member of a pod, she had been part of a hive mind, a single consciousness experiencing itself through multiple forms. And when she left, she didn't just leave her body, she left parts of herself behind. Parts that were still there, still living, still reading the currents in a world humans didn't know existed. Dr. Marcus brought her back for another session. He wanted to know more about the ocean world itself, where it was, if it was physical or something else. Jessica went under easily this time. Like her consciousness knew the way now. She described the world in more detail. It existed in a different dimension, not on another planet but in a parallel space that occupied the same area as Earth's oceans, but at a different frequency. That's why humans couldn't detect it. They were looking with instruments designed to measure physical matter, but the ocean world wasn't fully physical. It was semi-material consciousness, made manifest in a form that was part energy and part substance. The beings there could choose to become more physical or more energetic depending on what they needed. When they hunted, they solidified. When they rested, they dispersed. When they died, they returned completely to energy. And when they were born, they condensed from the collective consciousness into individual forms, but they never fully separated. There was always a thread connecting each member to the whole. And Earth's oceans held echoes of this world. Sometimes the dimensions overlapped. Sometimes humans would encounter things they couldn't explain, creatures that appeared and vanished, sounds that came from nowhere, feelings of being watched in deep water. Those were moments when the barrier thinned. When the ocean world and Earth touched, Jessica said she'd been drawn to water her whole human life because her soul remembered. It knew water could be home. It knew she had belonged there once. and every time she swam, or bathed, or stood in the rain, part of her was trying to return, trying to find the way back. But there was no way back. Not while she was human. The choice she made was permanent for this lifetime. Dr. Marcus asked what would happen when her human life ended. Where would she go? Jessica said she didn't know. The guides had told her that once she chose the human path, she would continue it, that she would reincarnate as human again and again, until she learned what she came to learn. That returning to the ocean world wasn't an option. Not for thousands of years. Maybe never. Because consciousness moved forward. It didn't go back, and once she evolved into human form, into separation and individuality, she couldn't evolve into collective consciousness again. The changes were permanent. So what was the point? Dr. Marcus asked. Why leave paradise to come here and suffer? Jessica smiled. It wasn't paradise, it was different. Beautiful but limited. We didn't have choice there. Not real choice. Everything was connected so tightly that individual will didn't exist. We moved as one, thought as one, felt as one. There was peace, but there was no growth, no challenge, no possibility of becoming more than we already were. Here, as a human, I'm alone. But I'm also free. I can make choices the pod never could. I can become something new. And maybe that's worth the loneliness. Maybe. The sessions continued for months. Jessica remembered more details. She remembered the names of other pod members, the specific patterns of the currents she used to read, the taste of the food they hunted, the feeling of the shared dreams. And slowly, something shifted in her. The drowning sensation stopped. The desperate pull toward the ocean eased. She still missed the ocean world, still felt the loss. But she started to understand why she had chosen to leave. She had chosen separation to understand connection. She had chosen isolation to appreciate unity. She had chosen the pain of being alone so she could value the moments when she wasn't. And now, in this human life, when she connected with another person, really connected, it meant something it never could have in the ocean world, because it was chosen, because it was rare, because it was earned. Dr. Marcus watched her transform. The woman who came to him drowning in nightmares became someone who could swim in both worlds, not physically, but consciously. She learned to access the memory of the ocean world without being destroyed by the longing. She learned to live as human without forgetting what she had been. She held both truths at once. And that made her different from almost everyone around her. She started writing about her experiences, not for publication, just for herself. And then one day she shared her writings online, anonymously, just to see if anyone else would recognize what she described. And they did. Hundreds of responses from people who had similar memories, who remembered being aquatic beings, who remembered other worlds, who felt like they didn't belong on Earth because their souls had lived somewhere else first. They formed a community, a network of people who remembered. And Jessica realized something profound. She had found her pod again. Not the same beings, not the same connection, but humans who understood what it felt like to be from somewhere else. To remember a home that wasn't Earth. To carry the weight of knowing you chose to leave paradise for this complicated, painful, beautiful human experience. And in finding them, she found purpose. Her role as a current reader hadn't ended. It had just changed. Instead of reading water, she was reading energy, sensing the people who needed to know they weren't alone, guiding them toward each other, creating connections that helped everyone survive the isolation of human life. Dr. Marcus published a paper about the case. He changed Jessica's name and kept it clinical, but he included the details, the consistency of the memories, the corroboration from other accounts, the profound psychological healing that came from accepting the memories as real rather than dismissing them as fantasy. And the paper got attention, not from mainstream psychology, they dismissed it, but from researchers who studied consciousness, from therapists who worked with past life regression, from people who understood that reality was bigger than what humans could measure. Jessica read the paper and contacted Dr. Marcus. She thanked him for believing her, for not treating her like she was insane, for helping her understand what the dreams meant, and she told him something he needed to hear. She said there are more of us, people who remember being from other worlds, other forms, not just past human lives, but entirely different existences, and they're waking up, remembering, finding each other. And once enough of them remember, once the collective human consciousness expands enough to accept that we're not alone, and we've never been alone, everything will change. Dr. Marcus asked, what would change? Everything. The way we see ourselves, the way we treat each other, the way we understand life and death and purpose. Because if souls can live in ocean worlds and human worlds and countless other forms, then we're not separate species competing for resources. We're one consciousness experiencing itself in infinite ways. And once humans understand that, really understand it, they'll stop fighting, stop destroying, stop acting like this is the only world that matters. Is that why you came here? To help humans wake up? Jessica paused. Maybe, or maybe I just wanted to know what it felt like to forget. And now that I'm remembering, maybe my job is to help others remember too. The last session Dr. Marcus had with Jessica was different. She didn't go under, she just talked. She told him she was moving to the coast, that she needed to be near the water, that even though she couldn't go back, being close to the ocean helped her feel connected to what she had been. And she was going to continue writing, continue finding others who remembered, continue building the network of people who knew they were from somewhere else. Dr. Marcus asked if she was happy. Jessica thought about it. I'm not happy the way humans usually mean it. I'm not content. I'm not at peace, but I'm purposeful. I know why I'm here. I know what I chose, and I know it matters. So maybe that's better than happy. 2 years later, Dr. Marcus received a package. Inside was a book, self-published, written by Jessica under a pen name. The title was Breathing Underwater, Memories of the Life Before This One, and inside was everything. The ocean world, the pod, the choice to leave, the pain of being human, and the hope that came from remembering. Dr. Marcus read it in one sitting, and when he finished, he understood what Jessica had been trying to tell him, that consciousness wasn't limited to human forms, that souls traveled between worlds and species and dimensions, that memory could transcend time and space and physical form, that somewhere right now, in an ocean that existed alongside Earth's oceans, but in a different frequency, beings were floating in the currents, reading the water, sharing dreams, living as one consciousness in many bodies. And some of them were choosing to leave, choosing to incarnate as human, choosing separation and isolation and pain because that's how souls grow, by experiencing what they've never experienced before, by choosing the hard path, by leaving home to discover what home really means. Jessica's book found its audience. Small but dedicated, people who had their own memories, their own experiences of being from somewhere else, and they wrote to her, told their stories, shared their pain and their longing and their understanding, and slowly a movement grew. Not a religion, not a cult, just a recognition that some humans carry memories of other worlds, and those memories matter. Dr. Marcus kept doing regression work, and now when someone came to him with dreams that didn't make sense, he asked different questions. He didn't assume every memory was from a past human life. He opened the possibility that consciousness could come from anywhere, could have been anything, and that openness changed what people remembered. He documented case after case. People who remembered being energy beings, people who remembered existing as light, people who remembered worlds where physical form was optional, people who remembered the space between incarnations, where souls rested and planned and chose their next adventures. And the more he documented, the clearer it became. Earth wasn't the only classroom. Humans weren't the only students. And this life, hard as it was just one chapter in a story that had no beginning and no end. Jessica never stopped missing the ocean world. Even years later, even after building a life she valued, there were moments when the longing hit so hard she could barely breathe. But she learned to hold it differently. Not as a wound, but as a compass. The part of her that remembered being Kale, that remembered breathing underwater and floating in shared dreams and reading the currents, that part was her connection to something bigger, proof that she had lived before, proof that she would live again, proof that consciousness was eternal and adaptable and infinite. And when she stood at the edge of the ocean and felt the pull, felt the part of her that wanted to walk into the waves and never come back, she honored it, she acknowledged it, she said thank you to the world she came from, and the beings she left behind. And then she turned around and walked back to her human life, because that's what she had chosen. And choosing mattered more than anything else. The soul remembers what the mind forgot. Follow 4 more memories that shouldn't exist.